It's time for Fight News Now. My name is John Pollock. Thank you for tuning into this week's show. On the program today, we're going to hear from Rory McDonald and Elias Theodorou coming off of this past weekend's victories, as well as Mike Malott prior to Saturday's World Series of Fighting card in Edmonton. Plus, John Ramdeen and Robin Black are here for 3 rounds. We have a special look at the Evil Within video game on the shift and lots more, so let's get started. Jake Shields will fight outside of the UFC for the first time since his release earlier this year as he meets Canadian Ryan Ford in the main event of the World Series of Fighting 14 event in Edmonton, Alberta this Saturday night. Ford will look to extend his win streak to 7, while Shields hopes to bounce back from his decision loss to Hector Lombard at UFC 171 as we take a closer look at Saturday's welterweight main event.
If the sport of MMA were judged purely on one's skills inside the cage, then Jake Shields would certainly be a top 10 welterweight, and he'd be making GSP money alongside Yushin Okami and John Fitch. Unfortunately for Shields, having people actually want to pay to watch you fight is what keeps you employed.
Because at the end of the day, it's entertainment business. It's not like a winning business, you know.
So after one loss to top 10 ranked Hector Lombard, the American Jiu-Jitsu black belt was given his walking papers from the world's biggest MMA promotion. Due to legal issues in Canada, Ryan Ford has been unable to fight outside of the country. However, he has been able to build a local following in Edmonton to rival any fighter inside the UFC. With 20 finishes and 22 wins, the real deal clearly isn't one to leave his fate in the hands of the judges. Can Ford win the biggest fight of his career and send the local fans home happy? Or will Shields nullify another explosive fighter and notch his 30th career win?
The World Series of Fighting card will also see the promotional debut of undefeated Canadian prospect Mike Malott, who has garnered a 4-0 pro record with 4 opening round stoppages. He'll be tested by Muay Thai specialist Hakeem Dawodu, who trains under Mike Miles. We spoke to Mike Malott ahead of his World Series of Fighting debut as he prepares for the Calgary native.
This guy's got a very good Muay Thai background, very good striker, but that's kind of my strength as well. And it's not a Muay Thai fight, and even if it was, I think I'd still be the favorite for the fight. There's a lot of hype around this guy, especially with regard to his striking, but I definitely see some holes in his game that I'm going to be looking to exploit, both on the feet and elsewhere in the cage. A win in World Series of Fighting on October 11th over Hakeem Dawodu is definitely not going to hurt, being 5-0, all 5 finishes, which is how I expect this fight to end. I think moving up and fighting guys that are kind of ranked in the unofficial top 10 rankings, I think that's going to be a little bit better for me. I think I need to fight some higher profile names. That tends to be the thing that people bring up about me is, yeah, he's finished guys, but he hasn't fought anyone big yet. Well, put those big guys in front of me and I'll show you the outcome's going to be the exact same. I've spent the last 5 years training out in Halifax, and I've got a great team out there, Titans MMA. And I've recently made the decision to move on to a bigger camp. I want to be on the big show. I think I need more training partners my size, more MMA guys, more just more in general, and I love the time that I spent with that gym, but after this fight, I'm going to make some serious choices as to where I'm spending the majority of my career.
It was a strong night for Canadians at this past Saturday's Fight Night 54 card in Halifax, punctuated by Rory McDonald's 3rd consecutive victory with a stoppage of Tarek Saffiedine, which follows convincing wins over Damian Maia and Tyron Woodley earlier this year. McDonald is clear in his message that he is ready to fight for the welterweight title after Johnny Hendricks and Robbie Lawler fight for the title in December.
I beat some really good guys this year, and I think beating a guy like Tarek, I said it in many interviews, he's one of the best in the world in the welterweight division, and I feel like I had a good fight against him tonight, and hopefully the UFC takes notice and puts me for that title shot so I can bring it back here to Canada.
And that takes us to this week's Tweet of the Week, which comes from McDonald with a simple message: title shot or bust, as he awaits the welterweight champion to emerge after UFC 181, which happens December the 6th. Another Canadian that added one to the win column in Halifax was Tough Nation's middleweight winner Elias Theodorou. The 10-0 Theodorou earned a unanimous nod over Bruno Santos on the main card and chatted with me shortly after the win about his performance and second fight inside of the UFC.
For you now, 2 fights into the UFC, you're someone that, a very public face. You do a lot of interviews. You have that personality that really does connect with people. Are you finding that you are getting that attention that 2 fights in, not a lot of fighters are getting at that level?
True. I think some of my coaches would say I'm getting too much attention, but with that being said, honestly, all of it's fun. I'm enjoying everything. I love the lights. I love everything. I get to show everyone what I love and the accumulation of all the hard work I do every time I step in the cage. With that being said, there's so much more work I need to do because I need to back up my talk. It's one thing to look pretty and talk a smile and whatever, but I gotta kick ass, and that's what I plan on doing next time.
What did you take away from working at TriStar? I know you were up there for quite a bit, and just a fantastic night for the TriStar crew on Saturday night.
Oh yeah, in Canada in general. And with that being said, all of Montreal actually opened its doors. Along with TriStar, I was at Titans Gym, and then everyone pretty much from the the house, the coaches. I was at BTT Canada. I was also at Montreal Wrestling Club, and Crew Ash helped me out a lot for this fight, and as well as my coaches back home. My coaches, RG, Shoujo Cunha, and Lachlan Chang, they're my bedrock, and they're my captains when I walk into the cage, and I'm so thankful for having them.
You're healthy coming out of this fight. I mean, you are fresh off this victory. I mean, does the idea of one more fight this year, do you think that's manageable on your end, this close after your fight here?
I don't know any timeline. There's a couple cool fights that I would like to be a part of, maybe at the end of this year or early next year. I'm going to take this week to just kind of have some fun and enjoy the spoils of my victory. And with that being said, there's just so much more work to be done. And there's actually a fight, a fight just before that in Sweden with a couple of middleweights. So maybe there's a couple of guys there that are injured free and want to go at it.
The Halifax card was the third and final UFC event on the schedule for Canada this year, with shows in Toronto and Montreal not coming to fruition. The UFC is gearing up for a return to the Great White North with 4 to 5 shows expected in 2015. And we now hear from the managing director of the UFC in Canada, Tom Wright, as he discussed the promotion's plans for Canada once they turn the calendar over.
If I was a betting man, Toronto and Montreal will be on that list, and some other places that we've never been before. So that's what's exciting about a sport like ours, that you can take it to different communities that have never had the chance to witness what great athletes can do when they're provided that opportunity. Being here in Nova Scotia and Halifax for the first time is something like that. You know, last year it was the first time we'd ever been to Winnipeg. The year before that was the first time we'd ever been to Calgary. And those are the kinds of things that are really important when you're trying to build a sport across the country.
That was Tom Wright, and this is John Ramdy, the voice of K1. What's happening on 3 rounds today, John? Your final 3 rounds before you go off to Thailand.
Well, I mean, the focus is always about the UFC when you have them in the sights, and we're talking about Jose Aldo, one of the pound-for-pound best fighters on the planet. A lot of people are talking smack about this guy. They believe, it's all a lot of hype. We haven't seen the best Jose Aldo in a long time, and that Chad Mendes is going to take the title. I'm not so sure, but Robin, he has a different opinion.
It's a rematch of UFC 142. They're chatting about it on 3 rounds when we come back on Fight News Now.